Hannah, it's so lovely to meet you and to talk about Creation Care. Could you tell us just a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, my name is Hannah Gray and I live on the east coast of Norfolk. I'm a member of Light of Life Baptist Church and part of BWEN, which is the Baptist Union Environment Network. I've worked in nature conservation for the Norfolk Broads National Park, and now I work at the University of East Anglia, managing sustainable development projects in the Global South.
Well, that's keeping you busy, isn't it? So tell me, what does church mean to you?
Yeah, so church for me means following Jesus in community with other people. I grow in my faith through the support and encouragement of my church family, and in turn, I can use my gifts and talents to nurture others. Church, I think, is about making a positive difference to people and places. And more, I'm discovering church is wherever God's people are working. So it transcends buildings and meetings and denominations. So I do consider myself part of the local church, but I'm also part of a community of local churches. I'm involved in Christian communities on social media and networks of Christians across the country.
Clearly, you're passionate about Creation Care, which is why we're talking. So tell me, what is it like for you in church as someone who is really passionate about caring for creation?
If I'm being really honest, I've often felt alone and frustrated. So environmental issues were rarely discussed in church for most of my life. I've been surrounded by people in my professional life who understand and care about the urgency of issues like climate change, but church never really seemed that interested. Sometimes I despair at the hypocrisy of churches, which preach about loving their neighbours and then use disposable cups for refreshments after services or fly around the world on luxury holidays. And I don't think ignorance is an excuse anymore, because we all know the harm that these kind of actions have. As an adult, I've led services with the Creation Care theme, and despite the rich biblical basis and social justice application, people still come up to me afterwards and say, this isn't a spiritual issue, why are we talking about it in church? I really disagree with them. Thankfully, the tide is turning and the church seems to be slowly waking up to the reality of the environmental crisis. I just worry that maybe we're too late.
Challenging, and it's really helpful for those of us listening. So if as churches we wanted to take Creation Care seriously and to welcome people who are passionate about that, what sort of changes could we make? What could we do to make people feel more welcome?
Yeah, okay, good question. So when I read the Bible, the Gospels, I see Jesus is outside teaching. He uses examples from his environment to educate people about the loving God and caring for our neighbour. And I read the Psalms, which are full of worship for God, inspired by the wonder of creation. I think maybe churches could benefit from turning to nature more for inspiration when it comes to teaching and worship. And recent moves towards Wild Church, Forest Church and Messy Church Goes Wild, these are all great examples of reconnecting with nature. But it shouldn't just be kids that have all the fun. So please, as well as getting outside more, let's have some honest and open discussions in church about the huge threats facing our planet and its poorest people.
Thank you, that's so helpful. And is there anything else you'd like to say to our churches?
Yeah, so I'm going to challenge you all really. So many people are suffering the effects of climate change already, and it's only going to get worse. The church needs to be ready to respond, and the church has to act with integrity and clean up its own mess first. So what can your family and your church do to reduce your carbon footprint? So churches should be leading the way in looking after God's creation, not lagging behind. The big climate conference, COP26, is happening in Glasgow in November, and I think churches can engage with this, use it as an opportunity to start talking about the implications for their congregations and their local areas. I'd really encourage churches that haven't yet talked much about Creation Care to start perhaps by holding a Climate Sunday service, or set a goal to become an eco-church in 2022. Now, with some others in the Baptist Union, we've set up the Baptist Union Environment Network this year, which is a great resource for churches to find out more. So please go to the web pages on the Baptist Union website, or contact me if you have a heart for Creation Care, and we can join up in the EBA to do more.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's been so helpful. And for churches that are wanting to do a service on creation care, there's Simon Goddard's recorded a sermon on our EBA YouTube channel, and churches can make use of that. And that's great to know that people can get in touch with you as well, Hannah. That's fantastic. Thank you so much for your time.
It's a pleasure. Thanks for the opportunity.